Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of PlayStation Pursuit. I have another stack of games that was acquired through trade-in credit at Voltage Video Games. Once again, as I've been selling stuff, the little things that don't really sell or I'm not going to make much money off of anyway, I kind of build a pile up, bring it in, and usually it equates to a decent amount of store credit that I'm able to use for actual good games. So I've been doing that with great success if you've been paying attention to past episodes, and this episode's no different. So stick around and I will show you what games I got this time. Okay, so the first game I got is a game that I used to have in greatest hits form. It's a million seller. It's, most people know this franchise, and it's synonymous with the PlayStation. And I actually got the second game in an early episode of PlayStation Pursuit. So I decided to get the Black Label in very good shape that I saw at Voltage. Real cheap game. It's the first Gran Turismo. I think it's like $2. It's in a 2-disc case with that PlayStation logo there. Manual was super crisp. That was one reason why I got this. And then there's a reference manual for the cars too, and there's the game disc right there. So not anything mind-blowing, but I definitely have lots of memories of playing this when I had it around high school age. So very cool game. This is another Natsume published game that I don't know if it's any good or not, but it's a unique sport to make a game about, and that is Burst Trick wakeboarding. So different than your usual extreme sport games. And again, Natsume, I thought that was pretty cool. It's got a black and white disc, so another good addition there. This is the last of this series on PlayStation 1 that released, and I had this for PS2, actually this and the third one, and I've never played the third and fourth on PS1, and I actually think I might like it, because even though it's not going to add a lot of the improvements that the PS2 versions added, it started on this system, so I can't imagine it, unless it's broken, being a bad game, and that is Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4. That was in good shape. Manual's nice and crisp, and disc looks nice as well. Now this one game has really bad stickers on it. I need to clean them off, but I have the second one already for the PS1, and it's been ported on a lot of other systems. It's on PC originally, and then I used to have it for the Wii, and I know that there's a DS version, but and a Game Boy Advance version, I believe, as well. And I wanted to get it for PS1, and it is the first Broken Sword. And actually, I will... It's called Broken Sword, Shadow of the Templars. And there we go, I got the manual out, so pretty cool cover on there when I replace the case. And then the disc right there, so pretty cool. I beat this game on the Wii version, and I really liked it. I thought it had a really cool story. It's a point-and-click adventure, and it was really fun. I liked it. The only thing I felt, and I gotta see what this version's like, the last chapter of the game, it seemed like the animation quality and just the overall production values tanked, so I'm wondering if it was like they had to rush and finish it back in the day, but I still like the game overall. Now this one I was very happy to find. I don't see it very often, and it's a classic arcade game. The only problem with this is the disc. Like many, I actually have noticed this on a lot of games that I've gotten from various places. Somebody with a marker wrote the letter P on it. I'm guessing it's like a rental store had it once, and they put a P for PlayStation, so when they were filing the games, they could see, what disc went for what system. They probably had DC for Dreamcast, S for Saturn. But anyway, the game here that I have is Robotron X. And as you can see there is the P I was talking about. But it's in red marker on the red part, and I probably can get that off anyway, so I'm not too worried. But cool, kind of a 3D version of the arcade classic Robotron. Looking forward to checking it out. It's got cool cover art, so definitely cool to add that one to the collection. And then these are two sequels to a game I got a few episodes back, and I was like, you know what, I had some trade credit, I'm like, let me get the rest of the series for this system. And like I mentioned before, I have a lot of memories of the first one, so I'm looking forward to trying these two. I might have played the N64 version of the second one, but I did not play the third one, and that is Rampage 2 Universal Tour. And then this one's a little pricier, probably because it was the last one that came out on the system, Rampage Through Time. So they're both in, I mean, the case is even good on this Rampage 2, but the disc has really colorful art on it and everything. Really cool. The case on this one needs to be replaced because it has kind of a little bit of a yellowing to it, which I've noticed as I've been collecting PlayStation games. And guess what? On this one, as I can't open it, there's a letter P on this one too. So I'm guessing that's what it was for, was to signify PlayStation. But I'm glad to have part 2 and 3 off the list for the PS1. So really trucking along, getting that series out of the way, and of course adding these games to the PlayStation collection. I'm going to take a quick break before the second half of the stack I got this time to talk about more of my PlayStation favorites, so stick around. Okay, so for my PS1 favorites this episode, there's one game I really was looking forward to talking about for a while, and I just put it off, and this is the episode I want to talk about it, because I think this game flies under everyone's radar, and if you haven't played it, I think you might like it. So let me grab it here. So this game is, from the front cover, you might not really know what it would be, but I will tell you right now, if you like the Twisted Metal series or Vigilante 8 series, this is a car combat game. And it is called Rogue Trip Vacation 2012, which we've already passed 2012. But basically, this is similar to Twisted Metal. It's a car combat game with zany characters, great graphics. I remember the graphics back in the day were so awesome because the reflections and the levels were really huge, well designed, and has a really cool soundtrack. And what separates this game from the usual just arena-based car combat games, it's called Rogue Trip. And basically what you're doing is the different cars that are battling each other are picking up tourists and bringing them to photo ops. So it's kind of got almost like if you've played Crazy Taxi, where you're going from picking people up and bringing them to different delivery points, like a typical fare for a taxi. It's kind of like that, only you have the person with you the whole time you're bringing them to photo ops. So there'll be like landmarks that people want to take pictures of that you'll have to stop and give them the angle to aim at, like this game's crude recreation of Washington D.C. monuments or something like that. But what's funny is that's not like that's just the game. There's still a Twisted Metal style car combat game going on. So it's just a really weird mix, and but I think it's really great. And I remember when this came out, I don't know if it came out just before or just after Twisted Metal 3. And Twisted Metal 3 is where it switched over from whatever the original developer was to 989 Studios. And Twisted Metal 3 and 4, in my opinion, are nowhere near as good as Twisted Metal 1 and 2. So while everybody else was trying to keep with Twisted Metal because, hey, it's Twisted Metal, I want to try it, I thought this was actually the better car combat game. And then I mentioned Vigilante 8 earlier. That's a pretty good one too. But this one, I don't ever hear anybody talking about, and I think it's a fantastic game. It's got, one of the characters is it's almost like the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile wearing a Jason mask, and I thought that was just such a funny character. And there's a big gas truck that actually has some of those cool reflections I mentioned earlier. It's the back gas tank part is so reflective and actually looks really good for the PS1 graphics. But really cool game, like I said. If you like Twisted Metal, I don't see why you wouldn't like this. And that little added twist of the photo ops makes it stand out from all the other Twisted Metal clones. So if you haven't played this, definitely check it out. Rogue Trip 2012. So this next game I'm going to talk about is, I think, a pretty good game to play if you are a fan of the old classic arcade game Tempest, or Tempest 2000, which has had many console ports as well, because it plays very similar to that. But also if you like shoot 'em ups or any rail shooters and stuff like that, you might find some joy in this game as well. And I think back in the day, I don't know if it was a budget title, but I thought I paid very little for it, even when it was a newer game. But I might be misremembering. But the game is called N2O Nitrous Oxide, and it's got really trippy colors. And the base gameplay, like I mentioned, is a lot like Tempest 2000. In Tempest 2000, if you haven't played it before, or any Tempest X, Tempest, etc., you're on the outside of like either a circular or a polygonal grid shape, and you can move around the outside of that shape and shoot in 3 dimensions into the screen where enemies kind of come towards you in waves and different patterns and everything. So that's a really fun game in its own right. But with this game, it changes up is instead of, I mean, you're still fixed to the outside edge, but you're constantly moving forward. So it's almost like you're going down a tunnel, and you can go 360 degrees around the shape of the tunnel. And I can't remember, I think, looking from the pictures, the tunnels aren't always just circles. I think there's like pipes and stuff, so it does kind of have that similar various geometric shapes style that Tempest has, but it's just got a really unique style of its own. It's not like Wipeout, the racing games, but similar in that where it's like very stylized and everything. And one thing that I really like about this game is the soundtrack. It's actually fully done by the Crystal Method. If you've never heard of the Crystal Method, really cool electronic music. And funny story, when I played this back in the day, I had played this and really enjoyed it, and I liked listening to the soundtrack in my CD player actually because I thought it was pretty cool music. And then I watched a movie called The Replacement Killers, and it has Chow Yun-fat as the lead hero in it, and he's like a hitman cop. I don't think he's a cop, but he's like a hitman type character. It was a pretty decent action movie, but the opening scene takes place in a nightclub where he's performing a hit, and he goes across the dance floor, and I was like, music sounds familiar. And I realized it was actually a song from this game, but by the Crystal Method that they have in that movie, and I thought that was really cool. And then another thing about that movie, which is totally unrelated to this, but I was like, why does this music, this other music sound really familiar? And this was years later when I saw it a second time, and the actual score of that movie was done by Harry Gregson Williams, who, if you don't recognize by name, does the music for Metal Gear Solid 2 and onward. So there's a very distinct style he has, and I could totally tell it was him. And then I found out on one of those did you know gaming videos about Metal Gear Solid 2 that's where they had seen his or heard his work was in Replacement Killers. So just funny circular story. But anyway, it started to relate to N2O nitrous oxide. So like I said, if you like shooters and rail shooters, and especially Tempest 2000 or games of that style, I think you definitely should check this game out. And I'm pretty sure this game does not go for too much. Might be a little uncommon, but it's not an expensive game by any means. So if you can find it, give it a shot, and you might really like it. Okay, so the final stack I have has some of the higher end, at least in terms of how much it took out of my trade value. These ones were a little pricier, and I was glad to get them out of the way. So the first one is, it says on the cover, the game that breaks the survival horror mold. So I'm assuming it's still got a survival horror element. And I believe this game, if this is the one I'm thinking of, doesn't have any loading between a lot of the areas, which was kind of one of its things at the time. Although I've never played it, so I'm just going off of what a friend told me about it. But I think this is the one that he was talking about. And it's called Galarians. It's a 3-disc game. In great shape. Got disc 1 with no letter P on it. And discs 2 and 3 here. So, of course, the manual. So, pretty cool. I'd like to check this one out. It looks like it's got the usual pre-rendered backgrounds of the survival horror games from this era, and I like I love pre-rendered backgrounds. That's something probably because it's Final Fantasy 7 and 8 and all that, and of course Resident Evil 1 and 2 got me into that. And even though a lot of times there's tank controls with those games, I'm used to it and I don't have a problem with it. So looking forward to seeing if this one is any good. Speaking of survival horror, this is the second game in a series by Capcom that's not Resident Evil, but was another spin, another take on survival horror with a little more focus on action, and that is Dino Crisis 2, basically the dinosaur Resident Evil. In good shape, complete, and I think I only played a demo of this one. I don't think I ever played the full game of this, so pretty cool. Excited to check that one out. Now this is another Natsume published game that's actually going up in price, so I was glad to get this one with store credit. Classic arcade title, and it's been ported to other systems before. And this one says it's 2 games in one. It's Lode Runner for the PS1, and it says Lode Runner: The Legend Returns and Lode Runner Extra are on here. So glad to have that. It's in good shape, and like I said, the price has been going up, so glad that I didn't have to actually spend any money for that game. Now I have 2 more games. One is a sequel to a game that I do have, and I never played this one back in the day, and I actually never beat the first one, so I'm actually looking forward to going through both these games. Instead of pre-rendered backgrounds, there's actually like FMV backgrounds, so this is a 4-disc game because of all the FMV to make the backgrounds, but it really just made this game look so ahead of its time back in the day. And the only dumb thing about this game is it was trying to be edgy with a lesbian relationship, which, you know, nowadays here a lesbian relationship is edgy, and it's like, really? It's so normal nowadays that it's funny to think that, just like other things in our history, there was a time where they'd be like, oh, shocking. Of course, they used it not to be progressive or anything either. They used it to woo in the, you know, dudes that were going to be like, whoa, they're going to make out. And this is Fear Effect 2 Retro Helix. But gameplay-wise, I know the series is really cool. Not a survival horror, but in the same style of Resident Evil. But like I said, instead of pre-rendered backgrounds, it has the full motion video backgrounds, which really just looks awesome. It has like a kind of a Blade Runner-esque setting, so really awesome game. And then the final game I got out of this episode is a Capcom fighter. One of the ones, not as expensive as some of the other ones on the system, but still these games go up in price, and I'm very glad to have this one because I don't think I've ever played this one. And that is Marvel Superheroes. So this is not X-Men versus Street Fighter, Marvel versus Capcom. This is just solely Marvel Superheroes. So very glad to have that. Good way to cap off the pickups for this episode. And like I said, pretty decent stack. So here's the Voltage trade. And I don't think there was anything amazing in my trade-in. I mean, I usually have incomplete games that don't have the back artwork or are missing a manual or stuff like that. Stuff like that I'm just trying to offload into store credit. And I think some of the games I brought this time were actually some better disc-only games, so that gave me a decent amount of credit. And I was there with my buddy Chris Lake, and he had 3 bins worth of store credit to trade in, and he was able to get some good games as well. So thanks Alex at Voltage for helping us out, because we were there that whole shift that day. Anyway, so those were the pickups, and now I want to take a quick second to crunch the numbers, and I'm going to tell the total now, which I think might be a little revised because I went through and inventoried this whole shelf, so there might have been 1 or 2 games that I missed since the last time I did a count that should have been in there. So the number might not be exact if you just counted based off of the total from the last episode. So let me crunch those numbers, hang tight, and I will tell you what I'm at. Okay, so the grand total now is bumped up to 433 PS1 games. So awesome. Now I'm another 10 ahead. I almost, like, I said 100 was a milestone, but even every 10 is good. So I'm past 30 into the 400s. So very cool to have that many PS1 games. And got a couple things coming up. They're going to definitely add more to the collection as those times comes. I got a convention I'm going to go to, and I also have some more games that some friends are trying to hook me up with. So can't wait to show you those once the deals are done. So thanks once again for watching, and I say it every episode, but if you haven't liked or subscribed the videos, definitely subscribe, because it helps me get the word out there and make sure that you guys get to see the videos as soon as they're available. I don't have to bug you and post on social media and everywhere else saying, hey, there's a new PlayStation Pursuit. So definitely subscribe if you haven't, and thanks to everybody who has subscribed and watches the videos already. I really appreciate it. So until the next time, see ya!